Hello everybody. In today's video, I'm going to do something just a little bit different than normal. In fact, I'm actually going to be reviewing a piece of software, in this case, Krotos Audio's Weaponiser. They were kind enough to send over a review copy for me so that I could take a look, try it out, and see what I thought of it. So what we're going to do is jump on over to my computer in a second, and I'll show you how it works and what I think of it. Before we dive in though, if you're not entirely sure whether to get it or not, and you've heard of it and you already know about it, yeah, I would highly recommend it just because it is one of the most powerful layering tools I've ever found that is also really easy to use, has a really nice interface, and comes with a ton of high quality gun recordings as well. So let's jump on over and I'll show you how it all works.
Alright, so let's dive into Weaponiser, but first things first, you might notice that I'm in Nuendo now instead of Logic Pro X, just because I've been using Nuendo a lot lately and I've really been enjoying it on all my latest game projects. Just want to point that out in case any of you noticed. But let's get into Weaponiser now. So this is a review more than a tutorial, so I'm not going to go over every little thing in this software because there's a lot. But basically, I'm going to tell you right now, if you're interested, then yes, grab it. It's awesome. It's fantastic. It's so worth it. They even included a ton of their own gun recordings here as well. So that alone makes it very, very worth it. But essentially, what Weaponiser is a really sophisticated layering engine. And we can layer 4 different engines on top of one another. So we have an onset of our gunshot, a body aspect of our gunshot, a thump, and a tail. So now I'm just going to play this gunshot for you right now so you can hear what it sounds like, and then I'll talk about what each of these 4 different aspects are. So what we're hearing is multiple sound effects all playing on top of one another, which is how all sound designers work. We love layering. It's the most powerful tool in our arsenal. So in each of these 4 engines, onset, body, thump, and tail, we can layer multiple sound effects together. So what we have here is 3 different sound effects playing at the same time on top of one another to create our overall onset sound, so our initial crack of our gun. So what I'm going to do is use my MIDI keyboard and trigger just the onset sound. Using C# is the default. If I play C natural, it's actually all of them. So if I just play C#, we're going to hear these 3 sounds playing on top of one another. If I press D, we're going to hear just the body samples playing on top of one another. Just D#, we hear just a very synthy thump, just to add some body to that sound. And then if I hit just E, we're going to hear our tail. So the tail of our gunshot. And we can tweak any one of these as much as we want. We can use speed to change the actual pitch and playback speed of our individual samples. So I'll play that for you here. Let me just solo this one right here. I can also create variation for each one of these different parameters. So I can click this white button and click it up and down. So every time the gun fires, it has some variation, and I can choose what the variation range is, which is really freaking cool. Adds a lot of variation. I can change the level, the volume, depending on whether or not I want an envelope or knob setting, and that's true of the speed as well. I can use an envelope or knob, which is really nice, so I can change it over time, or I can just have a static setting. Now, I can do that for body and thump and tail as well, but one thing I want to point out is that you can also load in up to 4 different samples at once. So I can throw in any one of these as our 4th layer, and you can have up to 4 layers at any given time in each of these different engines. So I can just type in Beretta, for example, because that's the pistol we're working with. And I can drop in, let's say, a sound effect of it being on the gun itself. So we have different ranges recorded as well. So we have 100 meters on the gun, 5 meters, 50 meters, etc., etc. Actually, let's do a sound of it being shot at 3 meters. So pretty up close. So I can just drag and drop that there. We'll see the sound up there. I can zoom in and out. So I can see the sound wave, and I can also highlight just the aspect of the sound I want to hear. And now we'll hear all 4 of these sounds layered together. So now we have 4 layers playing at once. Now, something I'm going to do as well and show you that you can do is you can cycle through different effects as well. So if you don't want to just play these same 4 layers every time, you can actually drag in up to 5 effects on each of these banks. So you can have up to 5 per bank, and it will cycle through them every time you hit the fire button. And you can do that for every single one of these. So each of these banks and each of these engines can have 5 different sounds in them that will cycle through every time you hit the fire button or press the appropriate key on your keyboard. So which is really nice. You can have tons of variation on top of just speed and volume automation or modulation. You can also have different effects swapping in and out. So that's really, really nice. And you don't even need to use just their samples. You can use any WAV file. You can search your computer for any WAV file and just use this as a layering tool. I know I'm going to use this for things that aren't just guns, which is really freaking cool. You can also use the synthesizer. Yes, there's a synthesizer built in the onset and body sections to create cool sci-fi effects. And even as you can see here, we have no samples in the thump section. We actually just have a thump synthesizer. So we have synthesizers on onset, body, and thump. Onset and body are very similar, whereas thump is a different type of synthesizer. Onset and body are FM, whereas thump, not 100% sure what kind it is, but it is just a very simple thump creating synthesizer. So we can actually create really cool sci-fi effects as well using these parameters. So I'm just going to hit play. I didn't tweak this at all, so it's not going to sound particularly amazing, but when I solo that synth, you can hear that there. But what I can do is load one of the many presets. We'll do like a sci-fi sound, and let's do powerful sci-fi handgun. That should have some good synth stuff in there. So over here on the body, we have a synth. And also, something I want to point out on the tail is that we have impulse responses as well. So we don't have a synthesizer on the tail. We have an impulse response, which is really nice. So we can add their impulse responses that they brought with it. Or we can throw in our own. Or we can throw into any sound we really want to get a really crazy effect to put it in a sense of place, which is really nice. I don't have to add my own individual reverb on top of it. I have convolution reverb built right in, which is freaking fantastic. I really, really like it. And then we can also, so many features, change the timing of each of these different parameters. So we can have the body start just a little bit after the onset with the thump and the tail happening a little bit after. So we can have things be staggered. We can have all the sound effects be staggered between one another so they don't all start at the same time, giving us a more realistic effect. So if I change presets to give you a better example, let's do the bass drop charge pulse rifle, because this will show it really well. So you can see our onset is just that sound. And the rest of it, the body, thump, and tail, happen all the way over here. And we can change when the start and stops points of our sounds are just by dragging these around, so we can have a cool charge up sound. Which is just really freaking cool. It's really, really nice to be able to time it like that right within here. And we can also zoom in and out, of course, to see our individual waveforms. If we solo different engines, we'll just see that waveform on its own, which is just a nice workflow thing. And the different colors respond to the different engines. We can also add different effects on each of our engines as well. So they have a bunch of standard effects in here, which actually sound really good. So we can add those to any one of these. So we can EQ each of these engines separately, which is really freaking great. And we can also change all the parameters down here, of course. We can do a little drunk feature, which is really nice. We can make it so that with this drunk knob, these timings of each of these engines is a little bit more randomized. So the more drunk you are, the more randomized these parameters are, the little more off kilter they are from one another. So they're not 100% timed perfectly like you set it up. There's a little bit more randomization going on, which is pretty nice. It adds a lot of variation. So like I mentioned already, yes, you should get this if you are an intermediate to advanced sound designer who's looking for a way to get more weapon sounds. I'm using this already on a bunch of game projects that I'm working on, and I'm using it for non-gun things as well. You can see here they even thought of that. They have beats, they have UI. You can add any sorts of layers you want in here and have it layer it for you. So it's just a really cool layering engine with a really cool interface. Synthesizers built in, which you can change the parameters of pretty quickly and easily. And then one thing that I love the most is that it's a MIDI instrument, so I can just record MIDI, render it in place, and then export that sound very, very quickly and easily. I can do burst mode. So I can do that sort of thing where I can make things sound more like a machine gun, which is really cool, and all sorts of other really great, well thought out stuff. The only nitpicky things I have, and they're very small, is I would love the ability to be able to reverse a different effect or reverse each effect in each of these banks. So something like battery or something like that, some other sample engines, I can just click a reverse button and it'll reverse that sample. For non-gun things, I'd really like to be able to reverse any of these really quickly and really easily. Not a huge deal, but something I would like to see just to get more creative possibilities in each of these banks. But that's really it. That's really my only criticism is the fact that I can't reverse these. So that's pretty good, especially for a brand new plugin that they just came out with. It's going to speed up my workflow a ton. It's something that I recommend highly if this is something that you do a lot, i.e. weapon sounds, which I'm doing a ton lately. So if this is something you're interested in, just go grab it. So worth it. Just these sound effects that they come with, all the recordings, all the impulse responses that they include are just absolutely fantastic. So well worth it, even just as a really cool layering engine with a great interface. So thank you so much for watching this one. Thank you, Krotos, for handing this over to me to do a review, and I'll see you in the next one.